chapter 20. God as a lion tamer. One of my favorite Bible characters is Daniel, the man who could meet hungry lions and not turn a hair. Even God can respect that. Whenever he met Protestants, he used to ask them why he never saw them praying. Oh, we pray all the time, anytime in our hearts. Despite the wonderful spirituality of so many sweet Christians, I myself, and remember, I am God, prefer the courage of Daniel. When his life was threatened, he still bowed in worship to me towards the holy city in the full view of everyone 3 times a day. He did not wax spiritual like the sweet Christians and just pray his heart for 30 days. It is amazing that only Christians out of all kinds of religious people are able to turn an inner spiritual practice into hypocrisy. All other religions require form, hypocrisy. Once in a while, the Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door. It tickles me that they do not know whom they are talking with, so I let them in. I always recite a few of my words to them in exactly the language and intonation I originally used. They do not even guess what a privilege it is for them, and that makes me smile. Then I read them the verse about Daniel praying towards the holy city 3 times a day, even at the risk of his life. I asked them if they ever do so. They never do. I offer to teach them. Invariably, their time is up and they have to go. Never try to teach anyone anything. There is only one way to learn, and that is for yourself. You may think you're having some success at teaching others something, but such success only comes to ignorant people. People accept from a teacher only what they already know. The more you know, the less people will listen to you. When you are God, you are completely invisible and inaudible. The universe is the house of God, and every soul that breathes prays to me at every breath. Yet only I know who the hypocrites are. The universe is the house of God, and every time I breathe, I tame lions. There is a man living today of whose name I shall not speak, for I shall reveal his destiny. For as long as the people of his city remember his father before him and his grandfather before that was hypocrites, therefore he and his brother early learned the ritual forms of prayer. His brother, like father before him, is regular in performing his prayers, but he does so in the hope that his neighbors will respect him. This other man, however, cheated in business and used to scoff at those who did their prayers. One evening in his 38th year, as he was closing his shop, and he looked out at the setting sun, he was filled with a great longing and an enormous thirst for me. He determined in his heart that he would seek me in prayer for the rest of his days. Tremblingly he performed his ablutions, though faultily for lack of practice. He spread out newspapers on the floor of his shop and laid the sunset and evening prayer. He was filled with a fervent joy in anticipation of his new life. But when the call to prayer was sounded in the morning through force of habit, he slept through it and awoke only at full daylight at his usual time. His heart smote him, and bitterness welled up. In disgust with himself, he has never prayed again, although he has lately gained a reputation for honesty and never speaks disparagingly of the prayer of others. He does not expect any reward in the judgment. He and his neighbors will be surprised. His brother who performs his prayers meticulously each day is a hypocrite and will go to hell. But for the sake of those two sincere prayers, this man will meet Ali at the fountain and taste the pure drink of Kauthar, chapter 21, eating mountains and maidenhair. When I was 15, I took every weekend possible to go to the mountains. My father would drive me south to the Big Sur. I left the sucking, sighing Pacific below me and climbed into the redwoods. Know how many generations of my ancestors lived in the ancient Appalachians. There could have been 1,000, for there were certainly many of my ancestors there even before the Europeans started sending their dead and unwanted to the western lands. At home, in the more youthful mountains of the West, I am especially proud of 4 of my creations in the Pacific Coastal Range. I am proud, of course, of the redwood, the sequoia sempervirens. He holds an Indian's name just as I do, and, like me, lives forever. I am proud of the maidenhair fern, the blue mountain irises, and the liverworts in the streams. I still have the scar of a tick on my arm that I got on one of my first excursions in Big Sur. It was a school outing, so such things had to happen. On another occasion, 2 friends and I backpacked through from the Pacific to the Fire Tower one weekend, a trip of 35 miles. We were 14. So began me youthful career of backpacking near the city of Geneva. I neglected my studies for the Saldev, the crumbling limestone toe of the Alps, where I spent time nearly every day. The Saldev is not high, but many people practice on the cliffs. Someone dies there every year, once a boy from my school. It rained 40 days and 40 nights when the flood came. Isaac and Isor were 40 when they married. David reigned 40 years. Jesus fasted 40 days in the wilderness. Moses was on Mount Sinai 40 days and 40 nights. During the first 10 days, he learned to look at mountains. During the second 10 days, he learned to climb mountains. He learned to eat mountains. During the third 10 days, during the last 10 days, he learned to be a mountain. A Christian, knowing that it was the month of Ramadan, asked me if I was fasting. When I said, yes, indeed I was, he laughed and asked why God would need to fast. Stupid, why would God need to eat? Chapter 22, Conversation with a Dervish. My father was the representative for Surfside Pools. He added that to his business of building speculation. And it really was a good idea for making a fortune. He built a display house of Georgia, marble with a swimming pool behind it. It had a spreading live oak in the front and pines in the back. Although it was a corner lot, the best thing about its situation was the plant nursery across the street. There was a good wood, a pond with both fish and turtles in it, and fields with blackberry patches and rabbit holes. My mother set out a horseradish root by the corner of the house. It never did anything. People who had never paid any attention to my parents before suddenly became best friends. Only the neighbors were cool and distant. That was probably because my father had informed them that, being tired of trying to keep up with the Joneses, he had decided to be the Joneses. Then President Eisenhower cut off the money. Nobody could get a loan to buy a house, and my father had 3 houses built on speculation for sale. The marble one with the swimming pool was the one that finally sold, and we moved out. We were no longer the Joneses. The next owners made a dining room out of our 2-storied music room. The living room was like a carpet advertisement, and there was plenty of room there for their grand piano. They planted azaleas in the front and closed in the double garage. Then the man died of a heart attack. They were no longer the Joneses. The Joneses have probably all moved out of that neighborhood by this time. A dervish once said to me, "You are not a master, but a charlatan. You claim to be Ale Ek Wu, but you do not have that appearance. If you were truly God in this time and place, you would have chosen a lowly and despicable figure as your vehicle. You would have appeared as an invalid, an old black woman. Here, whatever you are in truth, you look like a white Anglo-Saxon male. By my starts and splendor, do you call yourself a dervish, and yet consider an invalid, an old black woman, lowly and despicable? Fie upon thee! What in the 20th century is more lowly and despicable than the white Anglo-Saxon male? A few years ago, as I was walking out of the shrine of Jalal ad-Din Rumi, a young man accosted me with a broad smile of welcome. He said, "How was your trip? We have been waiting for you." We sat down to talk, and soon a man appeared in a white suit with a paisley tie and a matching handkerchief in his pocket. He sat down on the grass and, looking directly into my face, said, "Al-Haq." They invited me home for supper, and that was the only time I ever sat down to eat with people who knew who I was. The Father Erkan Turkman gave me a copy of his new book on the Masnevi of the Masnevi. "Saint," he said, "you are to me as Shams-et Tabrisi to Jalal ad-Din. By contrast, the other people I met in Konya were the coldest and least friendly of any in Turkey. They were almost like Europeans. I am a great and shining sun at the edge of a whirling atom, whirling, 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 whirling about all time, above all place, as the loving heavenly Father, I look down in pity on the world. They eat the same thing every day, but they are fortunate to have had thoughts and ideas in the past. In the West, they eat a dazzling array of different dishes, but their religion is the same, and tasteless fare, no matter what the packaging is. They grasp for new tinsel-wrapped beliefs, frantically undo them and swallow them, dropping the colored paper, the only distinguishing feature. Flaw, while reaching for another religion in the West, can be reduced to two staples. There is superficial emotionalism, which comes wrapped in either getting saved or speaking in tongues. And there is the flight into reincarnation for those whose present lives are not sufficiently interesting. After a moment of pity, I put them out of world and mind and turn to the exhilarating task of being. God, chapter 23, Rosewater, and face it. For the life of me, I cannot remember the boy's name. He was the first to befriend me in the little town of Jennings and the strange new school. After a few weeks, however, he changed. He would block the path, so I could not get home. His knuckles turning white as he gripped the handlebars of my bicycle. He never said a word, he only glowered. I never knew the reason for the failure of our friendship. Maybe he was the kind who could have only one friend and was not able to see me making a whole circle of companions without feeling betrayed. There were 2 Bennett sisters in my class who had 3 brothers. The ages of the brothers flanked mine, and for some reason we became friends. I went to their house many times, although it was on the other side of town. We would spend the afternoon after school playing tag football, boys, girls, dogs, and all. On the way home, he would meet me, silent and glowering, and grab the handlebars. He would have been welcome in our games. But he never joined. Soon he stopped harassing me, and I forgot about him, and his pinched white face until this moment. I have made the veil between myself and humankind so that it can appear in 2 ways, as a Grecian urn or as 2 faces, confronting. There are those who meet me in the contemplation of the urn, from which pours rose perfume. For these, prayer is an incomparable sweetness and consolation. There are others who deem to meet me face to face and so obtain in that illusion the strength to go on, to meet other faces. Most people relate to me in one of these 2 ways, either as a soft touch for a favor or to buy something on the one hand, or with hostility on the other. Everyone who looks at me should say the same bad thing. Still, they react in contrasting ways. Some see the face and are frightened. Some see the vase and try to grab some fruit. Others break through to reality. They have neither consolation nor strength, for they no longer gather roses nor see faces. They are merely mine without the hope of paradise, without the fear of plurality. Hell, they are merely mine, but they are few. An Adventist whom I respect for proper diet pointed out to me that my new gospel is just the old first lie the serpent told Eve in the garden. Ye shall be as gods. Now, friend, I said, I am not making an immortal and omniscient God of anyone. It is all a matter of diet. Surely you who understand the importance of proper diet am saying the same thing I said in the beginning of the world. Do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Eat from the tree of life. I must not take the eye of individuation, which is an illusion, for the eye of unity, which is reality. Illusion and reality dwell in peace, except for the moment of distraction. In the moment of distraction, the illusion of I imagines myself to be reality. But because the eye of unity inexorably exists, a competition arises. It is possible to ignore illusion, but not reality. Amazing that such moments of distraction can arise. Yet most people live their whole lives in them. What prowess, what miraculous powers, what immense will to cling to the experience of pain. You live in the most incredible state while considering such a simple thing as I am God to be impossible. How can you avoid imagining yourself to be God and thus escape the distraction of illusion and live in peace? Only by knowing that I am God. Chapter 24, Time and Sunrise. It is strange that certain sunrises remain for life. I remember one from 30 years ago with such clarity that even the present moment is not more vivid. It was a school camping trip in Centrip, California. We were surrounded by farming country, and the misty smell of cattle mingled with the low lemon sun. We boys were vying with one another in opening the secrets of country lore to the school principal, who was himself a former farm boy. Most of us were not, but we enthusiastically seemed to know everything. I cannot remember a word of what was said. I only see that eternal sun slung above the fields and pastures. You complain that I gave the 10 Commandments so long ago that they are no longer relevant. You ask why I don't speak again, so everyone can hear. Well, there are 2 reasons. First, what I said then still goes. I have not changed my message a bit. Second, that time on Mount Sinai was the last chance I had to get everybody's attention. If I ever went public again, people would just change channels. Oh man, not what wealth is yours in that you inhabit time and not eternity. The splendor of the sunrise lies not in its grand display of color, but in its ungraspable, changing fleetingness. If you could rewind it and stop to wallow in it for an hour or day at any one point of its brilliance, as I, who am God, can do, you would soon find it insipid. I have made you of such fragile stuff. Be therefore grateful. Chapter 25, the boredom of sovereignty within the quiet pools of dream that are reality. I tell a tale of how things seem and what they are to me. I set off Jacob's 12 to fight with neighbor and with brother, and Ishmael's 12 I bring to light that there might be another for my amusement and my sport, I set the teams to battle. I give each captain his report. I give each words to prattle. The one team shouts out, God is one. The other answers clear. There is no God but God alone, and neither team knows fear. The battles rage, the lots are cast while birth determines sides. Each side stands in agreement, fast, despite eclipse or tides, for nothing like. Agreement stated in different terms contrives. The sons of men brave, but ill-fated to war, and give their lives. And when the battles have been waged, and peace at last once more reigns where the angers are assuaged, they've counted up the score, then I shall be what I have been. For rocket and for sword, despite their righteousness, and sin their sovereign and their Lord. I say that all religions are false. But you ask me, in what are they all false? You really mean that you understand that all religions are false but your own, and you are challenging me to try to show your religion false. But that is not my purpose. I could as well say that all religions are true, for all religions contain both true and false. The very perception of the otherness of the other is an act of violence. Unawareness of the I-ness of the other is ignorance of reality. There is no religion in reality. There is only I. If you are a Christian, you have the advantage over others because you believe Jesus to be God. If you're understanding that God may appear as a man leads you to faith in me, who am the one true God. The faith of Christians usually turns out to be false because they flee into their delusion that Jesus is God to escape from my claims. Such escape is a further delusion, and the soul is impoverished. If you are a Jew or Muslim, you have the advantage over others because you know that God is invisible, unsearchable, and indivisibly. The contemplation of this truth could bring you face to face, as far as it is possible, with the one true God. Generally, you flee from the experience of truth to the knowledge of truth, and thus, by turning away from truth to its shadow, you darken your souls. If you are a Hindu or Buddhist, you have the advantage over others, because you know that all things are one. In that knowledge, you might recognize the true one in me. But usually, you will equate the knowledge of the one with the acceptance of injustice. You will imagine that justice belongs to the world of plurality, when in fact justice is inseparable from the one. Justice is the immediate perception and knowledge of the all. How can it then be separable from the one? It is not my humanity that will prevent you from recognizing me, but my humaneness. Perhaps you are one of those who does not believe in the existence of God. If so, you have the advantage. Indeed, God does not belong to the universe of things, form, color, dimension, speed, weight, existence, or non-existence, but you, whoever you are, look, here I am God